It was January 8th, 2015, and I had gone outside in the morning to just be in the cold. It was freezing, it was 7 degrees, and I start getting very imbalanced. And the next thing I knew, I was falling. I picked up my hand and I pushed the numbers on my cell phone and called my wife and just yelled into the phone. I couldn't even pick the phone up and said, I've fallen and something's wrong. I said, take me to the hospital. By the time that I got to the emergency room, it took a wheelchair to get me out and push me in. And I told the doctor when I went in privately, I said, I think I've had a stroke. I couldn't even stop myself from falling. This was horrible. What can you do to help me? And they took me through a series of tests. And it was a long morning, but the doctor came in with the usual disclaiming words that says, I have no idea what's happened to you, but I have an idea that there's over 500 reasons why a person can have a stroke. I call it the first 500, but I don't know which one was yours because we can't find anything wrong. It was seemed like hours later that the next doctor came in and said, we don't have a neurologist here at Williamson County. We're going to need to take you to Centennial via ambulance. And in a matter of moments, I find myself hurried into an ambulance, and all of a sudden we go screeching out of the parking lot, headed to downtown Nashville to Centennial, where I was met with an admitting doctor who was a realist. And he said, you have had a very critical brain injury. And within the next 24 to 48 hours, will determine if you live or not. You're going to need to be permanently disabled. I remembered when I was told that, what that meant to me. To be handicapped, to be in a wheelchair, to only be able to walk when you have assistance. I remember how that felt. For whatever reason, I was not improving. I think what really bothered me about that was I had people of faith come and pray. That's what happens when you're in the hospital. Nothing happened. Nothing. The doctor asked me if I had any faith. I said, just a little. Not very much. 6 days later, they told me to go home. So I was excited to go home. I tried to survive day after day after day, 16 days like this. And then people would say, I don't think this is God. And I would debate myself. God, you did this? Did you put me in this mess? I get a call from the vice president of college who says, hey, we want to invite you to this big event that Roma Downey's going to be at. And, her and her husband did the series The Bible, and we know that you love her. Would you like to come? And then there's going to be a concert that night, 2 public appearances. I went to the concert. First person I ran into is Stormy O'Mardian. You don't belong in this chair. What are you doing there? We need to pray for you. I said, thank you. Then Tommy Coombs came up from Love Song, and he's now the worship leader for Samaritan's Purse for Franklin. He said, can I pray for you? I said, yes. Artist after artist after artist kept coming up. The room was still spinning. I still couldn't stand, and I was still seated. But it sure felt good to be in God's house, and I went home that night. Even after so many people came up to me and prayed for me afterwards. And I said, gosh, if Michael and Stormy could just come pray for me. Michael's 69, a young 69. I just thought maybe they could come pray, and they did. But I said, Lord, if you'll have Michael write me, I'll ask him to come over. And did you know the next morning, he wrote me. And he said, is there anything I can do for you? And I said, yes, if you could just come pray for me, please, if there's any way. And he said, Saturday, 2:00. And this was almost the weekend. I was so excited because I thought, this is it. I'm going to get prayed for by people that I really love. I remember what I told the doctor. In the ER room. I told him, I said, someday, after he asked me about how big my faith was, and I said, it's just a little. And I said, I'm going to tell you something, Doc. someday, God is going to teach me to run. So Stormy started praying for me. Isaiah 60. Arise. Arise. I was like, oh, don't pray that. My body starts shaking. I just feel like I'm like freezing. I'm just like this. I'm like really intense, and I'm trying to stop the shaking because I'm nervous. And I could feel my entire body nervous. And then Michael, he put his hands on the bottom part of my brain where I had the stroke. And they're holding my hand and they're believing. And I'm shaking. And I go from shaking to crying. And then I don't cry really loud, but I can feel myself. And then I go into labored breathing, and I'm just breathing labored. And then finally, all that darkness, all that self-pity, all that grief, all that anger, everything that was in me just kind of poured out of me. And I just began to breathe. I could breathe again. I wasn't crying. There was a calmness. And then the prayer ended. And I'm sitting down, and Lynn said, would you like some pictures? And I said, sure. And I stood up, and we had our picture made. And Stormy said, you want to try to walk? I said, yeah. Michael said, I'll hold you. I said, no, don't hold me. I want to try myself. I took a step. And I was felt like a toddler, taking a new step, because I hadn't taken a step in 16 days. And I took another step. And I took another and another. And I walked across the room. But now I had to turn around. I had never turned around by myself. And I turned around by myself. And I walked back. And I kept walking. And Stormy was behind me, and Michael was behind me. And I'm walking. And I can feel myself walk, and I'm in disbelief. I said, I want to go outside. I couldn't go outside, but I wanted to feel the sun. So I walk outside. We have a large opening. And I hear, no, don't go outside. I said, I want to go outside. And I walked outside, and I walked to the mailbox by myself. And I started walking. And I started walking really fast. And then I started to run, because I wanted to know what it felt like to run, because I knew God was teaching me to run. I heard a scream telling me to stop so that I wouldn't fall, but I didn't fall. All of my symptoms of nausea and sickness, gone. Gone. I don't know how this happened, but I can tell you this. I knew that God could heal me, and I knew I couldn't heal myself. And I knew that I was a broken man, but He healed me anyway.